Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Drawing with Alex. I'm Alex. I am your friendly neighborhood space science podcast host with Today in Space. I'm also the owner of AG3D Labs, a 3D printing business that started off making parts for people, just like this, right? Hey, I need a part, send it to me. I'll make it for you. We've now evolved to the point where not only do we do that, we do 3D design services, but now I'm in the middle of writing my first book, the Book of Uncommon Sense 3D Printing, and I'm designing artwork for that book. So that book, once it's done, will then become the brain, my new AI that I'm building, Chat 3DP, which is made to help people with 3D printing specifically. And the book is going to be how it's going to be trained on that knowledge. So that's the basis. We already have the AI running, which is crazy. That's running on my PC upstairs, and we're getting that fully fitted with the brand new version of the book when it's done, but also all the different apps and tools that are going to be in that service. So if you want to learn more about what I'm doing, chat3dp.ai. Down here. Chat3dp.ai. That's where you can find out everything. Sign up for my newsletter so you can learn more about that. We have another one coming out next Tuesday. It comes out every Tuesday at 10 a.m. And then if you just are interested in the book, go to ag3dlabs.com/book. And you can just sign up to know when the book comes out. That's it. Today, what we are doing, that guy here, since I'm doing artwork, and I want this to be a place that is chill, some good vibes for you to just hang out. The world is already pretty chaotic, so we don't need more chaos. Let's find a little bit of positivity and just maybe even escapism. I'm going to draw here. I'm going to do some warm-up sketches before I get into my own artwork. And when I do those sketches, I actually come up with some pretty good stuff. We did the rough sketch idea for part 3 of our book. I was drawing all the different types of manufacturing technologies. Did one on all the different 3D printing technologies. Mothbells, hello. You say you have a hole in your shoe. That might be all the moths, my friend. But this is the book. We're going to start off by going through my checklist here. These are my prompts for my book, for my warm-up drawings here. Foxton, hi, hello back. What am I doing? I am doing some drawing today. I'm hanging out. I've got the music on in the background. We're hanging out. These are warm-up drawings to get me to the point where I am drawing at full potential for my new book that's coming out. So I'm hanging out, taking questions. So if you want to join, you're here. You're already here. But that's what I'm doing. Welcome. So I'll go through what I drew last week. So hard work and consistency. This is the hardworking wombat and the consistent cougar from the VFriends universe. If you don't know what a VFriends is, go to vfriends.com. Then it was believe in yourself. I've been going on a kick. What teenage me was into, which at that time was Dragon Ball Z. It was the Perfect Cell Saga. That was epic. And then my last prompt for the week was First Contact. And as you can see, our alien Al here is a little bit different than the typical alien on First Encounter. So, oh, that wasn't the last one. I had one more. I had peace. Because that's how I was feeling Friday. then maybe we need a little piece. And consider the whole picture of us on Earth, with our wonderful moon. Today, we are working on. Let me go back to the prompt. I had a wonderful time on Sunday going out with some friends. It was beautiful weather here in Massachusetts, which it hasn't been in New England in a long time. Felt like the first day of summer because, of course, it's jumping up from 40 to 50 degrees up to 80 degrees. So naturally, we don't have a real spring. We just go right into summer. But we had some drinks down in Hull, which is one of the coastal towns here in Massachusetts. A place called Drift, or the Drift, I should say. We're literally right on the water. It was a beautiful day. We were throwing back margaritas. It was a fantastic time and catching up with old friends. I'm still vibing from that. That's what I'm going to draw as my warm-up drawing, and I'm going to actually have some V-Friends, some of my favorite characters, Adaptable Alien, Adventurous Astronaut, and Vibin' Vampire, who will be in the shade. But if there's any other character you'd like me to draw, let me know. That's how we're starting. And then this warm-up will lead me into drawing some sections for the book. But let's get started. So I'm going to go landscape for this one. So we got to draw the dock. All right. But I hope everyone's having a good Monday so far. Really enjoyed going live last week for this. So I'm pumped that you're here. Appreciate you. I know it's lunchtime. Maybe this gives you a little bit of a break from whatever you're dealing with, whatever you're going through. Your warm-up drawing, what are y'all? Not sure I get the question. But I'm doing warm-up drawings because I've realized that if I'm going to do the artwork at the level that I will be happy with for my book, that I need to, just like good training, like good athletes don't just play warm, or don't just play cold, right? They warm up. It's the same thing with artwork. And it's getting into that flow state. So that's what I'm doing. Oh, that's okay, Foxton. Yes. So my warm-up drawing. That's what we're working on now. But yeah, it was great catching up. I mean, these are my buddies from back in the day, the original OGs in my crew. The reality is, I mean, we're in our mid to late 30s at this point. So we have jobs, some of us have families. If we don't have kids of our own, we're either building towards it or spending time with our family. Our parents are getting older. Maybe our brothers and sisters have kids, so we don't get to hang out as much as we like, but man, when we get together, it is just like the old days. All right, so important, since we have the vibing vampire here today, it's going to be important that I put him under the shade. Vampires don't like sun, even though it was gorgeous. It's not a vampire's life. Aw. Foxton has a wiener dog in their lap right now, and he's sleeping. I love wiener dogs. I love dachshunds. I had a dachshund named Slinky growing up. He was the best. And yeah, when he was asleep on your lap, it was the best. But thanks for being here. I appreciate you. I don't think I've ever seen you in the chat, so it's really good to see you here. If you're on YouTube, you're coming in through my 3D printing channel. So are you into 3D printing, Boston? Ray Huffman. Unfortunately, I cannot give you money. I am also poor at the moment. All my money goes into this business. But I wish you well. All right, so I gotta pull up a reference. Nice. Well, I'm glad you're here, Boston. I hope it is fun. So for those that don't know, I talk about VFriends. VFriends.com is a great universe put together by a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk, or Gary V. Never heard of him. No problem. The great thing about VFriends is there's all these different characters. They all have a trait, the vibe and vampire. And so we're going to be drawing in our shade here. So I'm just looking for a good picture we can roll off of. I think I'm just liking the basic TCG one, because they do also have a TCG game, which is a ton of fun. I have been able to play in a few IRL tournaments, which has been fun to get back into playing trading cards. Vibe Vampire has the same hairline as I do right now. So I am relating hard. Just realized the vampire, even though he's in the shade, could still be wearing sunglasses. Okay, so it looks like the Vibing Vampire only has 4 fingers. So that's what we're gonna do. He's gonna be drinking a bloody margarita, because why not? So I got the vampire. So we're cool there. He's in the shade. We want the alien. The adaptable alien, one of my favorite characters. Just got this like big alien head. Angle. I was just so pumped that it was nice out. It's been just rain, and not even like that much rain because we're actually like in a drought right now here in New England, but it's just been cloudy. There just hasn't been clear skies, which has been a bummer because I want to take the telescope out, but have not been able to. It's all right. Hopefully this summer will be a little bit better. And the cool thing is we actually live stream the views from our telescope when we run it all night long, which is pretty cool. I really enjoy that. I love coming back in and seeing what we picked up from the night before. All right, got our alien. Oh yeah, you didn't see. That's our pencil topper, adaptable alien. That was actually erased. Okay, and then our third character is the adventurous astronaut. Yeah, actually, that's gonna help. So. I'm gonna have him leaning up against the railing here. Looking out at the ocean. Do his jetpack, which I'm pretty sure I am the first person to ever cosplay the Adventurous Astronaut. I did that at New York Comic Con 2024. I had the whole jumpsuit and everything. And I 3D printed the backpack like a foaming TPU material. Came out really good. Stuff is like surprisingly durable. Up. Yeah, there we go. Nice. So when you have like an idea in your head of like what this is gonna be, and you start drawing it, and like it's kind of it is the feel of what I was going for, but I'll tell you, never looks exactly like how I thought it was going to, which is a good thing. I just fixed it entirely. Awesome. Cool. Well, there it is. Vibe vampire hanging out with his friend adaptable alien. Vampire in the shade, naturally. And the Astro looking up. Sun, hopefully with protection. And everybody's just enjoying their summer day. Good times, good friends. All right, warm up. Warm up sketch is done. All right, next up. Now we go over, well, first we need some coffee. That's a given. Okay. Next up, I've got, so these are the uncommon sense design recommendations that I put in my book, because there's, in 3D printing, especially if you work on the side of 3D printing where you're actually making parts for people, there's like a lot of common things that you get from people who want to use 3D printing but may not know how to use 3D printing. And so you'll get some of these designs that, if you look at it from within 3D printing, you're like, why would you ever give me this part? But if you just dig a little bit deeper, like there's usually a reason why someone's sending you that part. And so what I wanted to do was break down these examples so that even if someone's brand new to 3D printing, they can just dive in, know these are coming, and know how to react to them, so you don't have to make as many mistakes. But it's not common sense, so that's why we're putting it in this book. So what I'm going to do is pull out a sheet of paper. Okay. So the first, so I've got 5 different examples here. So there's the cube, the ejection molded part, the sheet metal part, the machined part, and the solid part. So I think I'm going to go with the sheet metal part. So you probably know what sheet metal is, but in case you do, it's, metal that's been bent into a shape that allows it to be very thin, but still structurally sound, at least even as a, there's definitely structural sheet metal, but you can also just have it for panels and stuff like that. But it's something that you see a lot with 3D printing, is you'll get, let's just give this example here. So let's say this goes to like the front of some mechanical thing. Right, it's like this. like a cone, a hollowed out cone or something like that. So it doesn't really have much to it, but it's basically like a C-shaped thing, right? Maybe you've got these holes for screws or rivets or whatever, so you can put it together, assemble it. But the problem with just going from a design that you got from someone that made it for you in sheet metal, you don't want to just take that design and go to 3D printing, because if you're doing this in metal or even in plastic, it's just going to be very, very weak. And it may not, if it's metal, it may not even survive either the laser sintering process, like melting the metal, super high heat from it not being very hot, then it gets really hot, then it cools down really quickly. It's going to warp. So like this part could end up being like, like I'm exaggerating this here, but you could get some really weird shapes, and like if it warps enough, then it's going to break. It's going to like fracture, crumble, especially if it's in the sintering. It goes into an oven, and then those particles heat up and then slowly fuse together as they go through that process. If you just printed it like it was from the sheet metal design, it's gonna fall apart on you. So what you need to do, so you don't want to do that. What you do want to do is use the power of design. So you're going to start off with that same design, right? Same general thing. You're going to change a few things. First of all, a common sense thing to do if you get a sheet metal design that's reasonable to attempt with 3D printing. You're going to thicken the walls, right? Can't go as thin as you did with sheet metal. That's a sheet metal specific thing. After that, you don't want to, if you're going to 3D printing from sheet metal, thicken up those walls. We're talking like 2 to 4 millimeters thick. That's ideal. And that's going to prevent a lot of that like crazy warping that you're going to get from that thin of a material. The other thing you're going to do is you're going to create these sacrificial features. And the reason is a lot of this warping is because this is not a closed geometry. It's open, right? It's a C shape. So in that extra free area, as it's either heating up and cooling down from a laser, or heating up, fusing particles, and then cooling down, it's going to be moving all over the place if it's just an open C. And you won't have control over whether it goes open or closed. It's going to be all over the place. It's going to be chaos. So what you want to do is create these little features that hold that C shape. And the reason I'm designing it like I'm designing it here, like a tab, is because when you get to the machining process afterwards, you're going to take this off the printer or out of the furnace. First thing you're going to do is machine these little tabs off, and you make them as easy to machine off as possible, which means you're not creating like a whole false wall that then you're cutting down. You're just trimming these tabs. Mac Guy is in the building. CEO of Niche 3D. Hello, brother. He says, that's such a great tip. to combat the type of warping. Never thought of that. Yes, you learn a lot as an application engineer. You get a lot of requests, and especially in the industrial space. Yeah, you could laser cut it. That's a great idea. Yeah, laser cutting would be fantastic. Water cutting would be good too. Depending on the metal. But yeah, when you're an application engineer in the 3D printing business, there's times where you get requests from a customer where it's just close enough to being possible. And basically, if you succeed, there's $250,000 plus coming into the company. So you're going to try. So these are the crazy things that you come up with to try and make something work. When I was in metal 3D printing, especially on the binder jetting metal side, our parts would have to go through a furnace. So even though, like with a laser, you've got all this heat and energy that's fusing this material quickly, there's going to be like a lot of twisting and bending that's going to be natural, as it's just wild melting. With the binder jetting, you're kind of like setting apart and letting everything come together. So you're really fighting gravity and you're really fighting friction. So you have less things to fight. And it's certainly interesting. An interesting world. You're going to see here, so this is also something I've done before. You've got a process that's going to build this part top to bottom. And you've got to build this sacrificial structure. What you do is you can also just design this for the process, right? This is design for additive manufacturing, DFAM as they call it. But Harlow Cardi, what's going on? I'm doing well. How are you? Matt Guy says, I want to try this for FDM too. I've seen similar problems with that type of feature when printing ABS or ASA, even in heated chambers. Yes, absolutely. I've also done, that's a good place to add this too. You can also do like a brim tab, like add a little feature on the end of this C on top of whatever this is. Maybe this becomes one thing, and then you just trim all this off afterwards. At the end of the day, you just need the part to print. There's no part that's going to be the perfect 3D print. There's no part that's going to be, you shouldn't expect to just click print and have a great part. That's just not how 3D printing works. You can get there, but it's not something that's going to be consistent. So, oh, hey, Harlow. Yes, I do stream daily, at least now. I think this week it's going to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday for this. And then, oh, you're from the UK. Nice. I'm in the US. I'm in Massachusetts. The Boston area. Oh, that's awesome. You're a graphic designer. Very, very cool. I do all mine, but I appreciate it. But yes, so that's the sheet metal part challenge. The sheet metal part, the C-shaped parts, if you're going to attempt a sheet metal part, the way to do that is to do sacrificial supports. Harlow, I am all good, but thank you. Hey, Amelia James. What's going on? I'm sorry your headphones broke. Cats will do that, Amelia. Cats will do that. That is the cynical cat from Be Friends. Definitely a real thing. All right, so that's one off the books. There, the sheet metal part. Okay. I'm trying to think either the machined part, the cube. So it's funny, as I wrote this section, the cube is the very first one, because the cube is a hilarious part to get as an application engineer or someone making parts for people. And the cube, so each of these design recommendations have a problem and a solution. The cube just has the problem. There's no solution to the cube. You just don't print a cube. And all right, so let's get into it. So the reason you don't want to 3D print a cube, or really any shape that like fills up your whole build plate, I think it's a natural tendency for people who are new to 3D printing, is let me print something that's the full size of my 3D printer, which is not a bad idea if you're trying to test how big can you actually make a part without it warping, without there being issues. Like, that's a reason to 3D print as large as the volume, but you still wouldn't 3D print a cube. I still would make like something hollow, like maybe just that square, right? And it's just like an extruded square with like thin walls, right? But there's no top or bottom. Like, that might be a good reason to print something in that shape. But a cube doesn't make sense for a lot of reasons. First off, this is additive manufacturing, right? You're adding material. So this is literally the most expensive and the longest 3D print that you can make. You're making the printer use all of its volume and then fill it solid. You might as well just machine this. Like, there's actually no reason for a cube to be 3D printed other than someone saying, hey, I just want a cube. And even then I'd be like, well, why don't you expose the top so you can like see the infill from like the top and the bottom? Phase mode, sure. That's the easy way. Phase mode is definitely the easy way for a full build volume. And Matt would know. He's a 3D printing expert. Hey, Foxton, thank you so much for hanging out. Really appreciate it. I hope you and your pup have a great day. Foxton, thanks for hanging out, buddy. Enjoy lunch. I had pizza for lunch, so I was very happy with that. All right. So Matt had a good point. Only reason to do this is on face mode with no top or bottom. Let's see here. You could machine it, right? It's going to cost you much less money to make a cube in machining than it will from a 3D printer, because a 3D printer is adding all of that material. Machining is probably only going to be trimming off of a square block that they load up on the machine. So it's just another reason why 3D printing a cube doesn't really make sense. You know, and if I was going to make a cube, it would literally be, if I was forced, I was held at gunpoint, and I had to 3D print a cube, this is what I would do. On the outside, it would look like a cube. But on the inside, I would do just a thin first layer, right? And then I would have it be hollow, as thin as I could get it from the walls, and still get away with people thinking it's a solid cube. And then I would have all of these sealing, as they start getting towards the top and we've got to seal up the top, they would just like kind of naturally come together until you could just bridge these final layers, right? And then you'd cap it off. But it's not a solid cube. That's kind of the whole point, is there's really no reason to make a cube. And if you are someone getting this part from somebody, if you get this request, you're a part maker, right? Ask more questions. Because if the person is sending this part to you, they don't know a lot about 3D printing. If they don't know a lot about 3D printing, and you don't figure out what they're looking for, then there's almost no way they're going to be happy with whatever you make them. You could be the best 3D printer in the world. You could attempt to make them a cube. They're probably going to have a problem with the fact that the cube isn't solid. So it's just a no-win scenario. It's the Kobayashi Maru. And just don't play that game. I don't play no-win scenarios. And the cube is a no-win scenario for 3D printing. All right, so that's the cube. All right. So we did the cube. Next up, I'm going to do the machine part, but I get into the details of, you know, maybe you do want to 3D print something that's machined already, for whatever the reason is. There could be a lot of them. Maybe the place that you usually get your machining from just has no time. And so then you're sitting there going, well, I need this part. How am I going to do this? Interesting. Matt says a lot of people ask for a cube for the demo part to verify the material or technology. What shape or part would you suggest is better to acquire those customers? I would rather give them a bar that they can try and snap and make them a lot of bars. Especially if they're going for like tensile strength, right? And it's going to be better, it's going to be more cost effective for you, and it's going to be more cost effective for the customer. They're going to get more parts. So I guess it depends on how big the cube is. I'm talking about a sizable cube. If we're talking under 10 millimeters, no problem. Print cubes all day long. That's actually harder for machining to do, to make you a bunch of little cubes. That's a lot of machining. So I'm okay with a tiny cube because it's not a lot of material and the 3D printing time is okay. I'm talking about anything that machining could do anyways. And then if that still doesn't go well, again, if the customer is willing to pay for it, like in the same scenario, if someone's willing to pay for the amount of time and energy it takes to 3D print a full cube on your printer, then do it. But this is assuming they're not going to pay for it, or that that's what they wanted, and then you tell them the price and they go, whoa, that's crazy. I'm not paying for that. That happens a lot. So I would ask more questions, right? Like another thing you mentioned, Matt. To verify the material or the technology. If they're trying to verify the technology, what are they learning from a cube? Like, what are you taking away from a cube that is valuable for your company? Because what's going to happen, especially if they want it as a sample part, I've seen this too many times. You go ahead and you make that cube for this potential customer as a benchmark. And then they come back, they say, hey, the cube was great, but now we want another part that's actually better for our business. We want to see if this technology can do it. So now you've spent all that time and effort making them a cube, and you're back at square one, and they haven't learned anything. They're not more convinced to buy your technology. And like, that's why cubes just don't make sense, because you're just wasting time and material and cost, and you still haven't gotten any closer to resolve it. I'm gonna carry away on this machine part. The whole point of me doing this was to show that you could lightweight it. Yeah, that's probably not the best. Probably not the best part. Let's see. Yeah, Matt, I think my question back for you was like, if, assuming this is something you do get often, like, if you make those customers cubes, if you're ever closed on a sale after giving them a cube, if they're just buying it as samples, kudos to you. The customer can do whatever they want if they're paying for it. All right, so let's say you've got this machine piece of material, right? It's kind of like a stand. You mount something up here. For whatever reason, it was originally machined. Let's see, there's like tabs here to mount it down. I wouldn't 3D print the same exact shape for this customer, especially since I would want to cut down on the 3D printing time, right? So I would do that same shape. Let's assume they're doing this out of metal and then they want you to make it out of plastic. That happens a lot. They're like, plastic's cheaper. We don't need all this metal stuff. Let's make it in plastic. Well, the whole design here, you could have thin metal for that. For this plastic part, like I'm gonna add bracing, right? Gonna make it so that, assuming you're 3D printing it this way, right? Or even the other way, let's say you're 3D printing it on the ground, right? Like this. This would probably be the most efficient way to 3D print this. Right? Bring it this way, this way. Even here, I would want the support because again, we're going from a metal part to a plastic part. So this is going to need to be stronger. And even if you're not going against, right, this is the layer lines for the 3D print. So you don't want to do that here because then that's the weakest part, is that thin area. So you'd want to thicken it, add some strength. In this case, what I would try to do do this where this is empty, right? This is like a hole cut through. Chances are this is going to actually be better because it's going to be a little less stiff. It may have some bounce. It depends on the project, but I would go with this approach. It's going to save time. It's still going to be plenty strong. You could always add more support if it's too bendy. And this would be a much better way to approach remaking this metal part in plastic. Here, what I would probably do is try to hog out this, right? Maybe I make the back of this. This is what I would recommend to the customer anyways. Maybe make this. Take as much extra material out as possible. Maybe this extends all the way, right? Maybe this is like this. So you still have the bracing of this curved feature so that this part isn't just gonna bend back. So you've got this like arch holding it up like a bridge. Well, not like a bridge, but it's holding it up, a bracket. And then just take out the extra material. You know, you're going less material or light weighting, as they call it. I would also do the same thing if this were metal, right? If you're going metal or plastic, I would still take the same approach because you're adding material. You're not cutting away material. So every bit of material you use here adds to the price. So Matt here, he says, we were talking about the cube. That customers have reached out to him about that because, as we said, the cube is no go. It does not come up too much, but I tend to try to go straight to the understanding of what their application is and figuring out what direction to go from there. Yeah, no, I mean, you're preaching to the choir, my friend. That's how I would go about it too. My immediate first question back to them is, hey, like, what is it you're trying to do? That's the most polite way to be like, why did you send me this part? And so he tries to skip over that whole generic part for them to look at. But I've always had a different pipeline at my jobs. than you have for how the counter request came in. Yeah, that's true. I have dealt with you. I believe you've probably dealt with more customer requests for your own business than I have for another business, especially a big business like I was a part of. I'm working for a long time. So, yeah, and I don't know if I would just look at a generic part, but it kind of goes to, I'm trying to figure out what they actually want. A cube shows me you don't know what you want. If you can explain to me why your process requires a cube, I'm in. But like that, even the example I gave with like the generic part they could try to break, I have seen that sell printers. I've seen a hands-on demo of the part strength have someone close a sale. So I know that it works in practice, and it can be generic enough that it just gets the point across. It's definitely also a good reason for sample parts, right? Like if you have a lot of different types of parts that can tell different stories, you can print those in a bunch of different materials, reprint them slightly different for the process. Then general parts can work, but even then they're still not general, right? There's something specific, there's some kind of story or function for them. And I think tactile parts are a huge thing. Like even this, which Matt Guy and I made at the Rapid TCT booth. So, I mean, fidget spinners are great. I think those are fantastic parts to print somebody, especially if they're like, hey, I want to see what you guys are capable of. Send them this. Not because you're telling them a lot of stuff, right? You're telling them the spacing. This is showcasing a part of 3D printing that's valuable, which is built-in assemblies. Now you can have this just built together. You don't have to like assemble putting it together. Because how are you going to get this inside of this without ruining it? And they're also just they're gonna have it on their desk. They're gonna be holding it. People can ask questions about it. And like we did here, it'll even tap it. Oh, it's not showing up because I have focus on. Or it's dead. But basically we put a little QR code in here. We embedded it inside of this fidget spinner. Come on. Well, it's not working today. But the point is that even just the words tap here, right? And putting that part in, it says a ton. And I've got to figure out, did I put this too deep into the part, right? Like, did I just embed this too far that it can't actually read? That would be hilarious. I noticed that it doesn't work very well for a lot of Android phones. I did notice that, which is interesting. I gotta figure that out. But regardless, those parts are really important just to have on hand. You can do fun stuff like this pen stand that I made. Right? Not a lot of material. This part would be very difficult to machine. You wouldn't machine a part like this, even though it's super simple and not, some might argue, very valuable. But that's the beauty of design. Here's a good example. So we made this box for like holding trading cards, and if you're gonna injection mold this or sheet form this or whatever, like it's gonna take a lot less effort for me to just make a thin walled hollowed out box than it is for someone to machine it or set up a mold and inject it for a part. Yes, injection molding will take you in the long run. You'll be able to make millions of things at a lower price, but never count out 3D printing. There's always a way. But that's it, folks. We did some uncommon sense design. I mean, I don't know if we've got any V-Friends folks in here, but traits are important. The soft side of skills of life are really important. Like being able to read a room is really important. Kind of know when a conversation has changed, if something you might have said might have gotten a reaction. It's definitely a valuable trait to be able to read a room. I think lately, the thing that I have been leaning on lately is curiosity. And for me, being curious is part of learning. It's part of being a scientist and an engineer. And I don't think a lot of people are as curious as they think. I realized that lately. Like, there's a lot of things that I was not really curious about. Even when I was in school getting my engineering degree, right? Like, I wasn't asking as many questions as I should have been asking. That's definitely something a curious person will do, is ask questions. And another part of being curious is like you're looking for the truth, not trying to find some piece of information that tells you that you're right. And what's weird about engineering school is everything that you're being taught is about you being right every single time. So you get caught in this almost like a false confidence as an engineer. And it's also a lot of anxiety too, where you're like, well, I have to get this 100% correct every single time. When in reality, engineering's I'm not gonna say it's a dirty science, but it's a lot more rough than, say, some stuff that's in the lab that's done really precise, right? Engineering needs to solve a problem, and usually it's a big problem that needs to be solved immediately, because it's either hurting people, costing a lot of money, or, you know, is something that just no one expected to happen. You've got to get in there and figure it out. So I think I'm a much better engineer when I'm curious, and I feel like the engineering culture is not very curious. It's almost like, well, I can be curious on my projects at home, but when I do engineering at work, I can't be curious. I have to be serious. And I don't think those are mutually exclusive. I think you can be serious and still be curious. So, musings from this artist and engineer. Let's see what else we got. Oh, we got some 3D printing to show off. So, thanks to Matt Guy's amazing material from Palitra, Risium Carbon, we finally got this router done. Or router mount, I should say. It's not a router. It's a router mount for the side of a telescope. And we finally got that first layer for those circular features to go down. And it was exactly as Matt recommended. I just had to slow it down. And it was really interesting because I had to, the way my 3D printer gets its jobs, I had to open up the job file in the actual app that like shows you the dashboard of the printer, and then I had to edit the G code manually. So I had to find like all the instances where it said F. In that case, it was like 1200. That was the speed. I think that was like 30 millimeters per second. And I dropped it down to 1000. I don't know what it is, but just given that, it's probably like 22, 25. Thanks. Yes, it came out great. Came out great. And it was a big Risium day on Monday. I also 3D printed the new stand for our Starlink router. So that is in Risium GF. It's going to be 90 this week, so that PLA adapter on that on that one thing was not good. No bueno. It's going to melt and fall off. But this is the video of me replacing the old PET G1 with the Risium GF. And I realized here I forgot, I contemplate for a second, I forgot the washer on the top, and when I had it fully secured, it wouldn't allow me to actually mount. Well, I was going to have one washer missing, basically, and I was like, I considered for a second, should I just not put it in there? And I was like, no, this is science. I need to make sure that I have it set up the same exact way. So I took it off, but luckily I just had to do it a little bit to get to the top washer, dropped it in, zipped everything back together, and put the cabling through the actual brace because I wanted that to be there so I can tack the cable to the side of the deck. And then we were good to go. Like, it really, really came together. Matt says, I think your nozzle is not close enough to the bed or your flow needs to be bumped up. I still see the lines on the bottom of the toolpath, not enough squish. So you know what's interesting? So on this bed, right, the fact that you're seeing all of that pattern, to me, I'm like, okay, this is less of a Z issue, although you could definitely argue, because I'm not getting elephant footing, right? You could definitely argue you can go further. I think the problem is that the bed sheet is not even. So on this printer, we print with a really high temperature filament, and we have to use glue stick. And so I think what's happening here is there's a lot of glue stick in the middle, and then not as much glue stick on the outside because I don't cover the whole bed sheet every time. And so I think it's a warp. So you're right, Matt, that right there, you could go closer. You can even see kind of the tool paths on the outside here. But look at the middle. Look at how close they are together. And so we've just got this like belly that we're 3D printing on. But you are right. We could definitely, this area it correctly needs to be closer to the bed. But my friend Matt, who's an astronomer, astrophotographer, and good guy, we 3D printed this for him this week. So I'm glad to get that out to him. But yeah, I was like, I know that's not the problem, but if you had no idea what I was talking about, it would sound pretty wild for me to say that. So I was like, let me explain myself. Oh man, do I have anything else to showcase? Oh yes. So I'm going to be giving to a bunch of friends who golf my 3D printed golf tee. And this has been a fun project. This is going to end up being a 3D printing adventure series on our social. And I'm trying to see how many of these I could 3D print on my Prusa Mini at a time. I've already gone up to 10, which it's still an hour print. Is it still an hour? It's fast. If I can get up to 14, 15, then I start getting into a very interesting ROI and price for the customer. So I'm going to keep pushing that to the max. That's a project for right now. But that's it. That's my 3D printing show and tell. That was a lot, actually. Talked about trades. Tomorrow, our newsletter comes out for Chat 3DP. It's our Tech Tuesday newsletter. We started it out promoting the 3D printing AI that I'm actively testing here at the servers at AG3D Labs. It's amazing what open source AI can do, and if you start building your own, AI tools are very, very impressive. But building your own, Matt's in this process himself. Building your own is it's a fascinating time for building your own AI. And some of the stuff I'm able to do with Chat 3DP is unlike, it's stuff that I wish I had when I was an application engineer. So that's been very exciting. If you want to learn more about that, get the free newsletter every Tuesday and learn more about what we're doing, go to Chat 3DP. There goes my phone. Chat3dp.ai. Sign up for the newsletter there. And if you're just interested in my book, which is what we've been doing all the drawing for today, you can go to ag3dlabs.com/book and just sign up for the book newsletter. We'll only alert you when the book is ready for release, and you can get some deals for the book, get first notice when the book comes out. That's ag3dlabs.com/book, and chat3dp.ai to check out our 3D printing AI coming soon. And we're just getting our server up and running. So it's so much fun. So many things going on. I truly am enjoying myself. And that is very, very cool and very exciting, especially with how depressed I was working in corporate tech. I am really, really enjoying what I'm doing now. And to close out, because I can't say this enough, if you need someone to 3D print your idea, to bring your idea into reality, go to ag3dlabs.com. You can get a free quote from us. You can email us at ag3d.engineering@gmail.com. I just had someone reach out about a project I did back in 2018 where they needed a heel insert for one of their boots that just fell apart. It's old. They wore them. They love them, but the cap fell out. And I made a blog back in 2018 helping my friend who had the same issue use some TPU to 3D print the heel cap. And that shoe is, the pair of shoes are still very much in use. And it's just amazing. Like, that's just a simple application of 3D printing. And someone else saw that blog, emailed me, and we're working together to make a replacement for their shoe. So, it really could be anything. If you have any idea that you need to get 3D printed, maybe a problem that you might be able to solve, you just need someone to help you make the part. That's what we do. So go to ag3dlabs.com, click on that first module, get a free quote from us, or just email us at ag3d.engineering@gmail.com, and we'd be happy to chat with you about it. But yeah, that's it, folks. Thank you for joining us for Drawing with Alex. We did, quick recap, had a great time this weekend with friends, and so I drew some friends at the beach having some drinks, which was exactly what I was doing on Sunday, which was awesome. That primed my creativity so that I could do some drawing for all of the different artwork that I need for my book. Some of this I will use, some of it is just a stepping stone, but what I'm going to do with all of these drawings is take scans of them, bring it into Procreate on my iPad, and make a transparent image. I'm going to redraw on top of that with digital sketching. That is then just going to easily be transferable onto the book. So there's still a good amount of the process left, but we're tackling this every single day. I'm going to be live Monday, Wednesday, Friday this week. Tuesday, I'm busy. I've got some business to take care of on Tuesday. But Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern time, you can expect us to be here. We'd love to have you. Come hang out. Thank you to everybody who hung out today. Really, really appreciate you for doing that. And I hope it brought some good vibes and gave you a little bit of creative inspiration and maybe learn something about 3D printing. So thanks for joining us, everybody. Excited to do more of these this week.